cloakroom. God, I hate Mondays. Tuesday's just as bad, said Stotty. Wednesday's worse. The exams start on Wednesday. Stott's younger sister, Stephanie, was loitering behind her. First years played hockey all through Lent term, and every Monday afternoon you'd see another crippled crocodile limping back from a friendly, their knees buttered with yellow mud. Young Stephanie had a filthy pair of goalkeeper's pads stuck under her left arm and was tricked out in cupcake skirt, spiked hockey boots, and a short-sleeved blouse with SS knotted in tidy chain-stitch across her tidy 12-year-old tits, reminding Baker that Miss Drumlin had threatened a double detention if she didn't sew a similar monogram on her own shirt. Stephanie Stott was leaning against the great double row of sinks that ran back-to-back through the middle of the room, waste pipes all coursing into a great porcelain drainage ditch beneath. Irrigation. She stared hard at Baker. Her face was dusted with round purplish spots, the sulky, unsqueezable kind. Not just nose and chin, but dotted evenly across the whole face, like the blisters on the second side of a pancake or something catching in the beano. "Can't you just ask Miss Reevy how you're supposed to do them?" asked the girl. Baker could smell the cough candy on her breath. "Afraid not, young Steve. Been tried. Miss Reevy has a degree in mathematics from the University of Cambridge, knows all about matrices, how to invert them, even knows what they're for. But she promised faithfully never to reveal the secret to a living soul, swore a solemn oath, not even for ready money, not even for $3,500 a year. Much easier to copy." "I'll tell." Baker powered up the scary stare that reduced grown German teachers to jelly, but the younger girl failed to wither. Perhaps she was short-sighted. Hardly ideal in a goalkeeper. Perhaps she knew Baker was on probation, knew how little it would take to tip them over the edge. Or maybe she just wasn't afraid. "You've been smoking. Julia Smith says only morons smoke. It's a tax on stupidity, Julia says." Stotty's sporty little sister worshipped the school games captain. Stotty gave an exasperated, "She doesn't get it from me," shrug. "Who gives a stuff what Julia Smith thinks?" sneered Baker. "And you'll get cancer. Even says so on the box. Talk about stupid." "Very probably. Now why don't you buzz off and leave us alone?" "Proles aren't allowed in the shell cloaks." Baker deliberately translated her thoughts into the moronic school code, the only language they understand. "I'll tell." But she did at last leave the room. "Your young Steve's a bit of a prat. Is she adopted? Who knows? Maybe it's you who's adopted. She looks nothing like." Stephanie Stott had her father's burly build and the beginnings of her mother's blousy curves. Stotty, with her boyish frame and pixie face, looked like a doll beside the three of them, like they'd stolen her from somewhere. She was easily the smallest in the fifth, half the size of Linda Madley, who was on the far side of the cloakroom, changing for netball practice. Baker watched her slither free of her nylon blouse, releasing a gaseous whiff, half body mist, half body odour. Behind Linda loomed the beanpole shape of Una Houseman, who was trying to keep her back to the room, hoping no one would see how her mother had attached her treble A bra to the top of her knickers with buttons and tape, so that she didn't throttle herself every time she raised her arms for a save. As Una reached under the bench for her gym shoes, the padded shell of white polyester gaped away from her chest. Why not just wear a bloody vest? Yellow wool in winter, lacy cotton in summer. Vests. Baker frowned at the comfy memory. Stotty had scampered off to the form room in hopes of catching Queenie and the one genuine piece of homework done by the sole member of the beta maths group who could make any sense of the prep, and her brother did most of it. The result was passed from hand to hand and copied over with sly crossings out here and there to make the forgery look authentic. Baker went across to her peg and huddled into her grubby blue regulation raincoat, called rather grandly the Grantham, and lined with its own peculiar plaid, a doleful chorus of greens and greys like the tartan of some extinct Highland regiment. Dress Grantham? Hunting Grantham? Trench Grantham? The girl changing next to her was sneaking her crucifix into the polished toe of her brogues. She twitched a glance at Baker. "Don't look at me." Baker was indignant. "'Tisn't me who nicks it all." Purse belts and make-up and cherished gold-nibbed fountain pens and puzzle rings and illicit transistor radios went missing from the cloakrooms all the time. No one was ever caught, but then no one tried particularly hard to catch. Culprits.